everyone. Thanks for joining today. So we're just going to go ahead and get started. Some of you, I invited you yesterday to a talk that was given by the Women in Localization Texas chapter. And this talk was about mindfulness practice, especially dealing with our industry, with translation and localization. And it was a really wonderful webinar. And there were a few things that I wanted to share with you from that talk. And actually, I think they're going to distribute the, what you may call it, the recording. So if that's something that you're interested in, looking at in your own time, just shoot me an email and I can send you the link when it becomes available. And one of the things that one of the speakers said was, the breath is the fastest way home. And that really resonated with me because, as you know, I talk a lot about breath and what our breath does to anchor us. Some other key things that they mentioned in the talk that really jumped out at me was in terms of our mindfulness practice, what is our goal? And I think it's a misconception that our goal is, I meditate and there's this transaction that happens and then boom, you're blissful. It doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes you sit and it doesn't feel any different, and that's okay. And sometimes you sit and you might feel not so good, and that's okay. Sometimes you sit and you feel a little bit better. So it's variable what's happening in your sitting practice. And really the whole notion is to sit with whatever is happening now, whatever it might be, right? So I thought that was interesting, that the goal is to be connected, not necessarily to be calm. What else did they talk about? Oh, they spoke about in the talk, when we feel, isolated or down, what is it that you're craving? Is it that you're craving physical grounding or emotional grounding? And I thought that was really interesting, that the whole notion of physical grounding. So maybe we might be feeling a little bit flustered or wired, but maybe we just need to hold ourselves. Or maybe we just need to snuggle up in a blanket or bring sensation back to the body. So those were just some of the things that I thought were really interesting that they spoke about. And the one last thing was, to, if you're feeling out of sorts, to just call a friend and say, can you ground me? And I thought was interesting, because it's like, oh, you don't even have to get into the whole story of what's happening. If you have this friend, you can call and say, can you ground me? And I thought, oh, who would be my grounding friend? Who's that person that I can call up? And I don't necessarily have to go into all the details as to why I might be feeling, not so good. And so I just wanted to share some of those pointers, things to think about as to how you're, all the resources that you have available to you in terms of settling with whatever's going on in your life at this time. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm just going to open our practice. So go ahead and get into a comfortable position. If you prefer to have the laptop to the side and not directly in front of you, feel free to move that around, because we spend so much time now in front of a computer. So you can just listen to my voice. You don't necessarily need to be looking at your screen the whole time. Feel yourself rooted wherever you are. Feel your sit bones on your seat, on your chair. Think of your spine as a nice tall tree, your hair occupying space between heaven and earth. In terms of what's happening with your face and your eyes, you can have your tongue at the roof of your mouth and your jaw relaxed, not clenched. Eyes can be open or closed, whichever you prefer. In terms of what's happening with your hands, you can just have it on your knees or you can have it in your lap. And now we're just going to turn inward and notice our breath. What does our breath feel like today? Just see if you can locate it. Is it in the chest? Is it lower? In the abdomen area? Just breathe. Bring awareness to wherever your breath feels most prominent. And notice how you're inhaling and exhaling. Feel that rhythm. So as we start our practice today, we're just allowing things to settle. And inherently in doing that, there's space that's being created, whether we recognize it or not. And in that space and in that quiet, we can find comfort there. If you find that your mind is distracted and it's taking a little while to settle in, that's okay. That's normal. We all experience the moments of that. If you want, you can do a few rounds of clear mind, don't know. So on your inhalation, think clear mind, clear mind, clear mind. And on exhalation, don't know. And on that exhalation, we're making things a little slower with our breath. So our inhalation, clear mind, clear mind, clear mind. Exhalation, don't know, which can be twice as long. And you continue working with that if you want, or you can do a few rounds of that and then let clear mind, don't know dissolve into your breath. So I'll just leave you to sit with that and to play with that however you want for the next few minutes. Okay, so we're going to do a little transition where we're going to bring even more awareness to our body. So first we're going to start with just holding ourselves. So it's almost like you're hugging yourself. So put your arms around yourself and then just squeeze your arms. How does that feel? Does it feel comforting? How does it feel to shift your attention to feeling your hands squeezing yourself or touching yourself? And then let's try just putting our hands on our chest or on our heart. And let's take a few rounds of breath here. Feeling that connection between our breathing and our heart space. If you want, you can put one hand to feel the pulse in the other hand. So you can become even more aware of what's happening in your body. How does it feel to touch yourself in this way? To be connected with your breath and your heart simultaneously. And our life is supported by these functions every second of every day. And sometimes it passes by and you don't even notice. Okay, you can start wiggling your toes, wiggle your fingers. You can put your hands back on your knees or lap. Slowly open your eyes. Let's do a few rounds of one breath meditation to close off. And let's assume a really open posture with shoulders rolled back a little bit and our chest space opened. And our head can be tilted upward, looking a little bit to the sky. And then here we just inhale and exhale. Again, inhale and exhale. Okay, so we've come to the end of our practice. Let's take a moment to dedicate any merit from our practice in any way we'd like to. Dedicate some of the merit from my practice to the people who would have liked to have attended the session but weren't able to do so. So we continue to hold space for them. And also I dedicate some of the merit to the scientists who are looking for solutions, cures, anything that can help deter the spread of the COVID virus. All right, so just to remind you of some of the key takeaways. So remember that the breath is the fastest way home. If you need to call a friend and say, ground me, do that. When you're feeling particularly triggered, think, am I craving physical or emotional grounding? And we did a few things that you could do to ground yourself physically. You can hold yourself, or you can just put your hand on your heart and connect with that heart space. And our goal is to be connected with what's happening, not necessarily to induce or to induce calm. So we're just staying present with whatever's happening at whatever point in our lives. All right, thank you for your practice, and I'll see you next week.